the mentor check. I was like, oh, reinvest it, so I gotta give my, I think just put out an update that you don't even need to transmit. If there's a bad, yeah, it's a firmware update, so it's still like the road quality, but it's Bluetooth. So, I mean, in a super roundabout way, it's just the same ones that we've had, like the AirPods, but it has the road quality. It's really cool. Yeah, they wait that like 130. Yeah.
The ones that, what I don't know about my, I don't know if it's on.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point, man, because that's happened a few times. Even just with my like normal mic that I have at home, it's like a kind of a knockoff one. I've done entire like 20-minute videos. It wasn't even connected to the board. And even worse, if it's not connected, like the mic's off, like you can't even hear yourself at all.
Right.
Like you're muted, you know.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So when people
Oh.
It is. Planning on having to say anything unless you have it in the chair.
Yeah, it's too big. I like your. Orange and. After that, well, send it to us.
All right, folks. Well, it is 10:02. We'll give people a few more minutes to hop in. But first, we just had a nice 3-day weekend. Does anyone want to share what they did? Anything fun, exciting? Oh, something's going on. What?
Yeah. So Friday, actually, we had a few real doing,
Okay.
and then we wrote the offer. And then yesterday we got the counter offer. And my client accepted.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And you have a listing? No, you're on the buyer side.
Very nice.
Very exciting.
That's very exciting.
It's
So
just
you,
the first one.
so you opened escrow.
No, we didn't open escrow yet.
It's just acceptance.
Well, today we have to. Answer the sponsor.
Oh, that's.
But he knows that it's coming.
All right, congratulations. All right, anybody in Zoom land, if you want to mute or unmute yourself rather and share anything with us, we're just sharing anything good that happened over the 3-day weekend. Anything good, anything exciting.
I saw Lilo and Stitch.
How was it?
Oh, I need to go. Oh, it was so good. Okay, I'll go. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Wow, so they nailed the live action remake. Okay.
Yeah.
That's such a scary like you don't know how it's gonna do.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was good. Let's spend time with two of my grandkids.
Love it. How old are they to sit through a movie?
They're not.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, are they boys? Twin boy and girl.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so it's not.
Yes.
Only one that needs
Okay, so we got an acceptance and soon to open up an escrow. Lilo and Stitch get 2 thumbs up. Okay. Anything else, guys? Anything else that we did this weekend? All right, my parents, they redid their pool, like they retiled it, they replastered it. So we got to break in the pool, yesterday, which was awesome. The irony of it is when we got there, it was like really cold and cloudy, but then it did brighten up after lunch, so that was good. And there's just, it's a lot of fun right now, because we have a 4-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old amongst the grandkids.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of fun. You're definitely on high alert at all times, but yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, anything else, guys? Anything else? Okay, so we've been, I mean, you may not realize this is what we've been doing, but we've been going back to basics with some of the classes that we've done. And the last time we had a class, we covered the economic model. Now, remember, I'm not that smart. I'm simply teaching you from a book. Okay, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the MREA book. You'll hear it called the Red Book. You'll hear it called the MREA book. But it is kind of the foundational piece of most all real estate trainings. You can go to another brokerage and you will see it on the bookshelf there. Most everyone has access to it, but like anything, very few people have read the whole thing. And even fewer people have actually implemented it and stuck with it. We are surrounded by the shiny object syndrome in the real estate space. You are the #1 target for every lead gen tactic and every CRM and every new tool that's on the market. And it's only, $19.99 for this and $29.99 for that, and before you know it, we'll get into the budget model later. But just understand that everything in our world is going to try to pull you away from the basics, the fundamentals. I've coached my whole life. I always used to explain to people, no matter how good a professional baseball player is, come springtime, they're hitting off of a tee. They're hitting off of a tee, which you would think like a little kid, T-ball. Nope, they go back to the basics. They remind themselves of the fundamentals so that when 100-mile-an-hour ball is coming, they don't have to think about it. Okay, this is all we're doing. So last class, we taught the economic model. Does anybody remember what the economic model was about? It's okay, it is a little misleading. Somebody might think it's about like the economy, like the big economy outside of us, but that's not the case.
Planning your business.
Planning your business, forecasting, yep. That's definitely a way that you can use it, 100%. The economic model is breaking down your business into math. And we always joke, math is math, and you cannot beat math. Math is everywhere, okay? You need to understand how much business you need to get the goals that you've set out for yourself. Now that goes back to what is your goal? So there's layers to it. #1 part of the economic model is know the number that you want to hit. How much money do you need to make? How much money do you want to make? How much money would you dream of making? And then we go backwards and we say, okay, now we know the number that you want to hit. Therefore, what is the number of escrows or closings that you would need? Okay, great. Now, in order to hit those escrows and those closings, what is the number that we would need to go on appointments? And then for appointments, and you just go all the way back down to, okay, great. If you want this big, scary goal of $200,000, you need to talk to 17 people today. That's how the economic model works. And then as you get better, your conversions change and all that fun stuff. So now that we know what that number is, we're assuming that you know that number. And if you don't, we'll go back. That's okay. Now we need to figure out, okay, Gabe says, or command says that I need to go on 37 appointments this year in order to hit that goal. Now, in order to have 37 appointments, what do I need to have? Give you a hint, it's on the whiteboard, it's on the screen. You need to have a certain number of leads, right? Prospecting, exactly. You need to have enough people to talk to. And this is where a lot of people will tend to get distracted because you can go on a platform that rhymes with Zillow. Zillow, you can go on Zillow and you can buy leads for really expensive. You can go on, you could rattle off names.
So our job now is to figure out, okay, you know your number, you know how many appointments you need, you know how many leads you need to get those appointments. Now, how do we get those leads? So enter the second model of the MREA book, the lead gen model. And if you don't believe me, it's on page 137, and this is my lovely book. My goal is that it's like being held together by just random pieces of glue. It's not there yet. I don't use it enough, obviously. But the lead gen model can be found on page 137, and you have one job as an agent. Now, whenever I interview a new agent or even an experienced agent, I never like to put them on blast, but I do like to ask them, what is your job? What is your one job? Every single person, because they have a great heart, is to help families. That's so hallmark. I love it, but it's wrong. Or they'll say, well, I know contracts inside and out. Like I can sell a house like you wouldn't believe. And I say, that's fantastic. That's kind of a byproduct of your one job. Your one job is to lead generate. Okay, is the lifeblood of your business. And right here we have, this is a quote, I don't think I can see the page, but your number one job is to lead generate, everything else is secondary. So let's take a look at just a few bullet points on this. Lead gen is the economic engine of your business. I like to say the lifeblood. Oh, Wally, just so you know, we can see what you're writing. I don't even know how you could do that. That's kind of cool. I need to learn how to do that. So no leads, no business. And we see this all the time. Raise your hand in your mind if this is you, because I know everyone's going to raise their hands. You will get pulled down a wormhole of looking at the MLS. Okay, because that's your job, right? That's your job. You will get really, really obsessed with what kind of font should I use for this postcard? This isn't really my aesthetic. You know, is this logo right? The logo's too big. You know what? I'm going to Google or I'm going to chat GPT how I can phrase this better. You will spend an hour on the perfect postcard. And it's because deep down, we are avoiding that one thing that we should be doing. And that is to pick up your phone or to go to coffee or to go to lunch or something that's going to involve lead generating. Okay, somebody else said it best. They said, these are income producing activities. And then I remember asking, so what about, showing a house? And that ad agent said, that is actually not income generating. You already have that lead, you're working with them, great. But to generate more income is to go out and get more people to talk to. And that kind of flipped my world upside down because I thought that was the busy, like I'm researching, I'm knowing the market, I'm looking at the MLS. That's not generating any income, okay? So, millionaire real estate agents treat lead gen like a daily appointment. So the question is, let me make sure it's not on the second slide. It's not. So the question is, do we have an appointment with our daily lead gen? And asked another way, if somebody were to look at your calendar, would there be a lead gen time block on your calendar? Arian's gonna check. You can definitely check.
I don't.
Now, just remember, this is one of the bold laws, or I don't know if it's a new, I don't know if it made the cut because the bold laws changed. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. If you're not a big calendar person, maybe you're like a really type B person, you're gonna need to get a little bit more type A when it comes to this. To just say, I'm married to a type B person, so I get it. To just say like, well, I know at some point I need to make 15 calls or have 10 conversations, but I'll get it done. Like I will find the time to do it. You will 100% not find the time to do it. And if you do, you're probably not going to do that Monday through Friday. You might do it on a Monday because you're motivated, you're rested, you're ready to go. You might do it on a Friday because as soon as I get these calls done, I'm going to happy hour. But the Tuesday through Thursday, the mundane, it's really hard to do that. Okay, so the question is, are you treating your daily lead gen like an appointment? And I would challenge people to start time blocking your lead gen. Okay, I don't have this, it's on my notes somewhere, but they did a study on people, and this was it was an experimental study for like exercise. And they had people that were not educated, no plan, and their job was to lose X number of pounds. And it was a very small percentage, because they just said like, yeah, I'll do it. No plan, nothing in place. The second group was educated on how to lose the weight, how to exercise, how to do these things. They had almost just as bad of a turnout as the first group. The third group had a plan, and they had to decide when and where they were going to do their activity. They tripled the results of the other two groups, which tells us it's not an education issue. This isn't a, oh, I don't know how to lead gen. It is a commitment issue to, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, from 9 to 11, you cannot reach me, because I am making my calls. And because I'm not a robot, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I can't do it at that time. So from 2 to 4, you cannot reach me, because I'm doing my lead gen. But the point is that it's some block on your calendar that moves every single day. Okay, but it's there, and it makes it so you can't even book a calendar. Or I'm sorry, you can't even book an appointment on your calendar, because that's blocked off. Okay, so my challenge for everybody in Zoom land and in here, with 15 people on Zoom, wow. My challenge for everybody is, I'm a realist. Okay, I'm not saying to do this Monday through Friday right now, day one. I would love for you to do it, but I also want you to succeed. So do 3 days. Can you time block 3 days a week? Monday, Wednesday, Friday is just really easy for me, for my little lizard brain. But if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, but I want you to put that on your calendar. Google Calendar makes it really easy. You could say, I'll use 10 to 12, and I want you to repeat this on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays indefinitely. And now you're in. You truly, somebody said, do you want to grab coffee? Yeah, sure, let me take a look. Oh, can't do that. Can you do a late lunch? And you'll suddenly start moving things around that time block, okay? So that'd be your first job, is your number one job is to lead generate and to treat it like a daily appointment. I think that was kind of an aha for me, is this is an appointment with myself. Okay, this is top of mind right now. We're dealing with dentist appointments in our family, and we're like moving it, trying to figure this out, but it's not going away. Like, we have to figure out the dentist appointment. We can't just say we're not going to go for a year, right? With the kids and all that stuff. Treat it like that. Yes, I have to move it, but I can't not do it. I just have to figure out how I can do other things. Okay. Any questions on that, guys? Are we treating it like a daily, like an appointment? Okay, now your database. Now, we've talked about this before. This is a KW stat, but 201 people in your database seems to be the magic number. As soon as you have 201 people in your database, you have a way bigger chance of capping, or whatever that means for you. For our office, I always like to use really round and simple numbers. Okay, I always tell people, if you're on a 70-30 split and you make $100,000, 70 to you, 30 to the office, you're capped. That is about what 201 contacts in your database would look like. Now, not all contacts are created equally, and let's talk about that. And this is in the lead gen model. Mets versus haven't mets. I think it's self-explanatory, but it does help to kind of dive in a little bit. You're going to have different strategies for them. So let's talk about that. Do we know the difference between a met and a haven't met? It's overcast, it's early, and I don't think people have enough coffee yet. Anyone? The difference between a met and a haven't met?
And every strategy look at. Right out of copy, different strategies.
Well, my question is the very first one, met versus a haven't met in your database. What is the difference between
Like
them?
meeting them in person or meeting that goal.
With a person, the relationship.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so a met is somebody that you've met, okay? I even don't like that. I like to be more specific with it. If I've had a conversation with them, I will call that a met, okay? I haven't met, so how do we end up with haven't met? I always thought that was kind of strange, to be honest.
Referrals.
Oh,
Referrals? Okay, I suppose you could say that, although it should be a met fairly quickly, right? If somebody says like, hey, my cousin he wants to sell their house. Yes, that's a haven't met, but I'm trying to met that person as quickly as I possibly can. Right? Before they're done with their sentence, that person's becoming a met. So yes, to answer that, that's a yes. But what are some other haven't mets?
People in your farm area?
Ah, there it is. That's exactly what I was looking for. People in your farm area, okay? I know this is gonna sound kind of weird, but like, you know them, they don't know you, right? You know where they live, you know their neighborhood, but they don't know that you exist yet. So now your job is to figure out how they can turn into a Met. So, and this is where things get really fun, to be honest, because they're gonna have different strategies. If somebody has referred me a lead and I'm gonna go contact that person, that is gonna be a very different strategy than somebody that lives 2 blocks down from me. And I know that they have a 3-bed, 2-bath, and they have, 1,500 square foot house with a pool, right? I'm not gonna talk to those 2 people differently. So this says here, the economic model depends on knowing your conversion rates from each group. So you're gonna have to know your conversion rates. Now, the book will give you some. I would always encourage you to revisit this, Google, check to see what current conversion rates are. Now, if you don't, this is if you don't have conversion rates. Eventually, we would love for you to have your own conversion rates. We would love for you to say, for every 19 appointments, or let me see, for every 20 phone calls I make, I have 3 good conversations. For every 10 good conversations I have, I get a referral. That is somebody that knows their conversion rates. And I don't think that's too much of a stretch, to be honest. I don't know if that's anybody's, but that would be pretty decent. If I sat down with somebody and they told me that, I would be ecstatic, because I would say, well, we can figure out your economic model really easy. If you know that those are your conversion rates. Now, just to give you a rough estimate. So the red book, as referenced, the red book, says that for every 50 people in your farm. Okay, so let's say you have a farm of 50 people. It's a very small farm, but I think that's actually a smart way to go. 50 people in your farm. If you market to them once a month for a year, you will get 1 piece of business from that. Now, do you see how simple the economic model with that becomes? Well, if I get a farm of 100 people, and this is the operating term, and I market to them consistently for once a month for a year, then I will get 2 pieces of business from that. Now, this is where people will fall off, because they'll say, oh, then I want a farm of 500. Give me a farm of 500, and I'm gonna get so much business from them. They market to them once because they're fired up. Then the second one, they barely get it out in time because they kind of forgot, and they never do it again. Right? I've done it. I think a lot of people have done that. And I always encourage people start small for 2 reasons. We're gonna get to the next model, which is the budget model. But also you want to track your conversion rates, and your conversion rates might be better. Right? Because there's a lot of factors to that. If I'm not having great success with my haven't mets, if I sit down with somebody and they have a farm of 150 people and they've been marketing to them for 2 years and they've gotten no business, one of 2 things is wrong. Either just the general area, we need to figure out where they need to go instead, or what is their marketing looking like? Is there a call to action? Is there a QR code? What does that look like? Because now we can play with that. Okay. So let's read this. Let me move this because this is gonna drive me crazy. I don't know. I can put it. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's nice. Okay. Build a database, feed it every day, communicate it in a systematic way, and service all the leads that come your way. So that is called the 4 laws of the database, and that is found within the lead gen model. Okay. Now, the 4 laws of the database could have warranted their own slide, but I want to talk about them. First is have a database. You would be shocked, and you might be in this room or on Zoom, and you might be agreeing with me that this might be you. I cannot tell you how many people do not have a database. Their database is all up here, baby. It's all up here, right? They'll have an Excel sheet. They'll actually have an email list. They'll have their phone book on their phone. they'll have a Facebook group of people. I mean, they'll have 4 or 5 different databases. Your challenge is to ignore all those shiny things, have one database. Okay, now the second law is feed it every day. What does that mean? This means 2 things, and I used to only think of this as one way. I used to think that feeding your database every day meant you add more people to the database, right? That's kind of common. I think most people would think that way. What's that?
That's how you feed a sour and starter also.
Yeah. Feed it every day. Now, you're not wrong in thinking that. I used to think that all the time. Until I sat in on a class and somebody said, it's not just adding people to your database. So my ears kind of perked up. And they said, it's adding information to your database. Right? So I've always kind of ranked my database, and actually Command, I'm doing a live so people just know this is about Keller Williams in this specific instance. Command will give you a database health score. And it will give you a contact health score. So if I sit down with somebody and I say, show me your database health score, and it's 25%, I would say, whoa, okay, we need to go through your database and add information on everybody. And this turns into a little bit of a fun game. It's, okay, we can take a look at your contact list. You have 50 people at a health score of 10%, which means you barely even have their name. Maybe you have an email or a phone number. So the game is, I want you to go through these 50 people and I want you to try to get their health scores up. Notice how we're kind of gamifying this. Now it's actually kind of fun. Like, okay, great, 50 people are at a failing rate. I'm going to see if I can get 10 of them to come above that line. And you just go through it, and before you know it, your database health score overall goes up and up and up and up and up. Okay, we've always told our mentees and our newer agents, if we can get your database health score to about 70%, you're going to be in phenomenal shape, because that means you have them on smart plans, you have their neighborhoods, you have their phone numbers, their email addresses, you even have maybe their home anniversary, you have as much information as you can for this person. Okay, are there any questions on that one? Yes.
That makes so much sense that Command actually goes and scores your overall health, because I couldn't figure out why it was saying, you know, that it was in the red. And Steven and I were actually looking at it over the weekend. He's like, how did you get it to read? And I was like, I just gave it all the information.
Yep.
Home address shoots it up.
Yeah, it does. And I wish there was, I'm sure there is, a cheat sheet on like what piece of information improves it the most.
I wish it would.
Because there's been times where I've added a few things and it doesn't change at all. And I'm like, what? But regardless, you want to go through your contacts, go through somebody and say, well, they're not getting a neighborhood nurturer because I don't have their address. So as soon as I can get their address, that's a point. I can put them on the monthly neighborhood nurturer. That's another point. And yes, you're having fun. Like, you're actually gamifying this, and you're also servicing this client at a higher level, because now they're going to get a monthly update on what has sold in their specific area, not in Southern California, not in the country. Okay, that's as misleading as it gets, but in their specific area. Okay. Now that brings us to our next part: communicate with it in a systematic way. So there's a lot of different tools you can use in Command, or in any CRM for that matter. One of them is you put them on a smart plan for you to reach out to them. And I'll give you a really simple example: putting them on a quarterly call campaign, which, by the way, tells you to call them. It doesn't bug them, it doesn't hassle them. So in other words, if somebody says, we're in May, if somebody says to me, you know what, once the summer's over, we're thinking about putting our house on the market. First of all, they're lying. We already know that, because half the time they're going to list it, and you need to be there talking to them. Now, you don't want to pester them. So what I would do is I would put them on, at minimum, a quarterly call reminder. It's not quarterly, sorry, monthly call reminder, because we have about 4 months until they're saying they list. So I'm going to put them on a monthly. I might put them on a bi-monthly, semi-monthly, just to remind myself to call them. Okay, so remember, systematic doesn't mean it's some cold text message or email that goes out to them. It could be a reminder for you to reach out to them. And I'll give you some other examples. A birthday smart plan. I'm not a fan of putting somebody on a smart plan that sends them a birthday message. I don't like that. I would rather I get sent the message to reach out to them. Okay? Home anniversary, same concept. I would not want to help somebody buy a $2 million house, and then 2 years later, they get a text that says, happy home anniversary. Gabriel Perez, Keller message. That's like, that's not you at all. So I want the text, I want the call that says, hey, this person just celebrated, you know, send them something, write them a handwritten note, give them a call, pop by, something, okay? And then service all the leads that come your way. I've felt like that's always been kind of a silly one, but it is valid. If you have a landing page, anything like that, you should be reaching out to those people as soon as those leads come in. Those are the 4 laws of the database. Now, one other thing that I'll say on servicing all the leads, this is why I like to teach this class, because I hadn't thought of this until now. When you put people on a smart plan, on a neighborhood, does anybody know what that looks like for them, or for you for that matter? Have you?
My cell phone.
Okay,
So I didn't, you know, what it's like.
okay, good. Now, have you ever looked to see, this is kind of wordy, have you ever looked to see who's using the monthly neighborhood nurturing database?
How does it show that?
Exactly. So you will get a notification that so-and-so clicked on the monthly neighborhood nurture. And then when you open their contact card, this is on live, so this might get kind of weird. You can see what homes they looked at in the email. Okay, so I would honestly categorize that under servicing all the leads as they come your way. Because you have somebody that you went to college with, and they said, oh yeah, no, book me on something, I'm here to support you, whatever. And then suddenly they're starting to click through. It is your job to reach out to that person in a tasteful way. Please don't say, hey, you know, at 3 a.m. I saw that you were looking at some homes with a pool, you know, you got some questions for me? But be timely, right? Hey, just, you know, a few other homes went on the market just recently. I know we talked about it. What questions do you have for me? What's changed? And just anything, just to get the conversation going. Because 9 times out of 10, like, oh, actually, yeah, we were kind of thinking of something, you know? So yeah, I would categorize that. I'm gonna put that in my notes. Categorize that under service leads as they come in. As soon as you see something happening, reach out to them. Okay? Any other questions? So this is all under the database, and I know it kind of balloons out, but there are 4 laws of the database. Have a database, feed it every day. Now we talked about how you can do that. Add people or add information, communicate it in a systematic way. That means you can reach out to them systematically, or you can have your system remind you to reach out to them, and then service the leads as they come in. This could be a new lead, or it could be a lead that's active in your database that unless you have a smart plan in place, you won't know that, right? So this is why we want to have those smart plans in place. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? All right, just unmute yourself if you have any questions. Okay, so the right tool is the right way. Your success will come from mastering a handful of lead generation tools and using them consistently. So a few things on that. I believe, and I wish I had the graphic, every family reunion or mega camp, they'll put slides up that kind of shows the state of the industry. And they'll always show things like the number of people that say they'll use the same agent and then actually use it. Like we all know that graph, and it's really depressing because everyone says they will, but then they don't because we don't keep in touch. But there's another slide that shows the number of lead sources that top agents actually use. And it's 1 is really high, 2 is really high, 3 is pretty high, 4 is starting to come down, and then it's a drop, which tells us that the best agents are using 3 to 4 lead gen sources. Now, this book is time constrained, right? It's not a spring chicken. So sometimes it'll use something like 2 to 3 lead gen methods. Things have changed since this book was written. Not a lot, by the way. 2 to 3, from 2 to 3 to 3 to 4 is not crazy. But the point is, if you're that person that says, yeah, you know, I do client events, I do cold calls, I do expireds, I do open houses, I do door knocking, I do Zillow leads, I do Google paid ads, you're losing something there. That's a lot. Okay, I'm surprised I was able to rattle off that many, to be honest. So you need to figure out as an agent, what are the 3, we'll say 2 to 4. what are the 2 to 4 lead gen methods that are your best go-tos? And there's 2 ways to answer that. Number 1 is you've been in the business long enough to look back and say, okay, where have these leads come from? And that's a great exercise to do, by the way. And you do need to dig in a little bit. So I'll give you a great example. For my wife and I, we have our database. It's very easy for me to say, well, all of our business has come from our SOI. It's referral, it's repeat, it's all in our database. But then I was kind of encouraged to dig in a little bit deeper, like, okay, this SOI did give you a referral, but why did they give you that referral? Had to look back through the timeline. Oh, we invited them to a client event, which, by the way, they didn't even respond to. But 2 weeks after we sent that out, they called us with the referral. So I just want us to understand that it isn't always just SOI. That can mislead yourself. But what did you do in order for that person to think of you and to give you that referral? Okay, so back to my point. One way is to look back at your business and see where it's come from. Another way, this one's a little bit more fluffy. What do you enjoy doing? Okay, if you don't enjoy doing something, there's a fine line. You're not going to do it. Okay, now there's some things that we just have to do. Lead gen. Okay, there's some things we just don't necessarily want to do, but we need to do it. But that doesn't mean it all has to be bad. So what is something you really enjoy? Figure out what that is. 2 to 4 lead gen methods. Okay, now we've talked about these kind of standard, which, by the way, when you hear 36 touch, 8x8, 12 direct mailers, by the way, that's what that stands for. When you hear these things, it came from the red book. Okay, so the irony of it is sometimes you'll see like a new software on Facebook that's like, oh, download our new software. It's about a 36 touch campaign. You're like, that literally came from the red book. They're just adding some paint to it. Okay, so my question for us is, do we use it's a 36 touch now, by the way. Do we use a 36 touch? Do we use an 8x8? Do we know what those are? If we don't, let's talk about it, because this is the lead gen model. It's an important part to it. Maybe most importantly, do we know when to use these? Yes,
I think James thought I went over this the first 2 weeks ago.
he went over the 8x8. Yes,
8 touches 8 weeks.
correct. Yep, the 8x8, we'll go in that order. So the 8x8 campaign is 8 touches across 8 weeks, which is once a week. Okay, now did he say who to use that for? It's okay if you don't have it in your notes.
Probably don't.
Okay, so the 8x8 is meant for somebody that you just met. I'll give you the easiest example is an open house. Okay, they see you in the professional light, they're not working with you. And we also know, in a really depressing way, they are going to forget about you in the next hour. As soon as they get their venti Starbucks on that Saturday, you're gone. Okay, so your job is to reach out to them once a week for 8 weeks. Okay, we also happen to know that if you're calling a cold lead or following up with a cold lead, it takes 7 to 11 follow-ups before you get any traction with them. I not only know that number, it's a really convenient number, 7-11, and I'll never forget that number, but 7 to 11 times. And I think the question we need to ask ourselves is, if I got a lead, let's just say somebody came into an open house and I didn't hear from them after 3 phone calls, I would guarantee you 90% of agents stop at that point. And they'll tell themselves, well, that person's obviously not interested. I called them 3 times. You need to call them 3 times more than that. 7 to 11 times, which means, and this is just kind of a crazy scenario, you could be calling them the 6th time, leaving a 6th voicemail, and the 7th time they'll be like, how do I know you? And you'll say, I have called you 6 times. I've left 6 voicemails. I've sent 6 text messages. We had a conversation and you don't even remember who I was. That's absolutely true. It would offend you. Oh, it totally hurts your feelings. You're like, what? Or somebody in your sphere is like, I forgot you were in real estate. You're like, what? But whose fault is that? Were you putting them on a campaign? We'll talk about the next one. So 8x8 campaign, really important. Anytime you meet somebody, you want to put them on an 8x8. So that by the 8th week, they're like, hey Gabe, yep, thanks for calling. They know who you are now. That's your goal. Now, the next one, or the first one in this order, is a 33 touch. We call it a 36 touch now. Again, not a timeless book. There's some changes to it. 36 touch only because it makes it really easy for math. Okay, 33 touch, I never liked that number. It didn't make sense. So this one is 3 touches a month forever. That's the idea of a 36 touch. The 36 touch is kind of like your base layer of prospecting to your database. Everybody should be on some type of a 36 touch campaign. The only reason that they are not is if they're in a contract with you. Obviously, you're not going to keep doing that with them while they're in escrow, or if they're still on the 8x8 because you just met them. But the idea is, I just meet you at an open house, or I meet you at a Starbucks, or I meet you somewhere. I put you on an 8x8, which, by the way, they don't know they're on an 8x8. You're just conveniently checking in once a week for 8 weeks. Once you're done with the 8x8, technically they now remember you. That's the idea. Now you put them on a 36 touch, so that when you're reaching out every once in a while, they actually remember who you are. Okay. And then the 12 direct, I feel like it should be a different category. That's if you're doing mailers. 12 direct to the door. That's what direct means. And that's like the door knocking. Or if you were really adamant about, this is my farm, I just closed an escrow here, you would absolutely do a 12 direct, just sold, market update, something like that. Okay. But this is the systematic way to follow up with your database. Okay.
I was just gonna say, something that I borrowed from somebody else, who's no longer with us actually. For the 8x8, when you first meet somebody at an open house, they're probably going to other open houses that day, they can't remember what realtor was with, which house, send them a video message of you. Because it just kind of, there's facial recognition.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good idea.
That's actually more personable than even like texting,
Yeah.
not, or even calling, yeah.
And believe me, I hate doing videos. Printer, video.
I just reached out to someone today.
So feedback we've gotten is that sometimes the people on Zoom can't hear. So Marianne gave really good insight on using the scenario if you meet somebody at an open house. A great first touch, because they're probably going to one of 5 open houses that day before they go to grab lunch and then forget about you, is you send them a video message, thanking them for stopping by, great to meet you, and anything pertinent that they mentioned, you mentioned there. Honestly, nowadays, anything to make it not look like AI, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Because there is AI that will make your mouth say the name as a merge tag. Yeah, it's really hard to detect.
Like those babies that are.
Yeah, yep. Thank you. That's a really good one. Another little wrinkle that I do is I have a digital business card, which, by the way, is just a screenshot of your business card. Try to make it tasteful. But a lot of times when I text somebody, I'll add that to the text. So they remember that who you are, they remember the face, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, because sometimes they don't remember the face, just like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Let's read the quote from the book here. Your success will come from mastering a handful of lead generation tools and using them consistently. I mean, I've always compared real estate to kind of the fitness space, in that if you just eat your vegetables, do squat, like you don't need the fancy stuff, and real estate is no different. If you committed to 3 lead gen techniques, you mastered them, you put everybody on an 8x8 and a 36 touch, your budget, your life, your income would be unrecognizable in a year. And that's the battle. The battle is, can you stick with the fundamentals when everybody's going a different direction, when you're getting pulled every direction? Can you do that? Again, I think that's always going to be the question. Can you do it? Okay. Okay. Let's keep going. Invest time before you spend money. This is actually a beautiful bridge to the next one, which is going to be, it's not today, it's going to be the budget model. Okay, but invest time before you spend money. Just spoke to somebody, this was maybe a week or so ago, and they were asking me, what do you think about buying leads?
I was gonna ask you that.
Good, maybe I'm talking about you, but I
I
knew it was
hadn't
coming.
asked you. I hadn't asked you.
But this was a newer agents. I mean, the ink was still wet on their license. And I just said, before you do that, I think it's an 85% likelihood that your first deal is gonna come from somebody you already know. And that number probably has changed in some way or another, but the idea is your business is already in your phone, it's already there. Don't spend money yet, okay? Lead with income, lead with revenue, not with expenses, not with the credit card, okay? So time block 3 hours a day, your lead gen budget grows with your business. So I love that analogy. So the idea is your budget can only grow if your business grows, okay? So if you've been doing your lead gen for 4 months, you have not earned the right to increase your budget from a monetary standpoint yet. Only when you close your first deal can you now sit with your mentor, your coach, or whomever and say, okay, I have a check for $100. How much should go to here? How much should go to there? And now you can strategize. I personally would still try to keep expenses bare bones. I want to get somebody in the profit as much as possible before they start playing with any type of expenses. Leverage free before paid calls, open houses, and networking. That kind of touches on the same concept. Open houses, aside from maybe the gas, and if you put out bottles of water, open houses are pretty close to free 99. Okay, calls to your people, not paid leads, are free. And then networking. That one might cost some money, right? Maybe you take somebody to lunch, maybe you put a little something on, but for the most part, you could keep your expenses really, really low and do very well on this business. Okay, and then time block 3 hours a day. Again, I'm on the other side of the extreme. I want people to get the breadcrumbs first. I want people to do lead gen as often as they possibly can, and I want them to commit to it first. So in other words, I don't want somebody to say, I'm going to do lead gen from 9 to 12 every single day, Saturdays and Sundays. I would honestly pull that person back a bit and say, okay, give me 3 to 4 days. Like, let's commit to these, get this at 100% success, and then we'll add to that. That's my approach. It's always been my approach. But the red book says 3 hours a day. Time blocked, not just theoretical. Okay, put it on your calendar. And now let's see, lead generation should be your first and most important investment of time each day. So again, if you're a weekly calendar person, like you sit down on Sunday night to look at your calendar for the week, the first thing you write in should be lead gen. Fill it in, and then everything else can find its own space. Those are your big rocks. Okay. Any questions on that, guys? Right. Here's the last slide. Yeah. Consistency over time wins. Build habits, not sprints. Track numbers, measure results. Okay. So this one's personally, if you looked at my KPA, this is not my strong point. Okay. I am go, go, go. If you make me stop and track numbers and do that, I do not like that, but that's why you get a coach, because I have somebody that makes me do that kind of thing. But you want to be able to track things. And the reason for that, and I actually recently saw this on something, Facebook or Instagram. Somebody said, if you knew that your next commission check was 20 no's away, how fast would you get through those no's? And you would pretty fast. You'd be like, well, how fast can I start? Like what time can I start my calls? And it's just a true statement. And that's the beauty of conversion rates, by the way. Because eventually, and by the way, in Command, it gives you suggested conversion rates, which I love. Eventually you can go in and edit your own. For now, just use theirs. But you can start to say, man, this has been a rough quarter. But I can see on my dashboard, on my reports, on my conversions, that for every 12 appointments, I get a listing. Like, man, hopefully it's always better than that. Okay. For every 6 appointments, I get a listing. And I'm at 4 appointments so far. If I get 2 more appointments, I'm going to get a closing. So it can reverse. You can look back and look at your conversion rates, and it can give you motivation over moving forward, okay? And that's only possible if you're tracking your numbers. I would never put anybody on blast, but I would love for an experienced agent to walk by and for me to just say, hey, what are your conversion rates? And the truth of the matter is most agents would not want to answer that question because most agents, even if they've known it in the past, probably don't keep it up to date. Okay. And then lead gen equals freedom, predictability, and profitability. I think we kind of covered that part, but I do want to kind of talk about this part. And again, I'm a little against the grain on this stance. If I think it's 85% of every agent is now a dual career. I mean, it's a huge number. So most agents nowadays have something else. Now, whether that's a side gig, whether it's a career, it doesn't matter. But in other words, they have something else going on. When I sit down with an agent, I always tell them, if you could give real estate 3 hours a day, you would be doing better than a full-time. And that's the truth. Now, yes, if you start to get escrows and that now there's more time involved, but if you can on the front end, if you can invest 3 hours a day in your one job, which is lead gen, if you can do that, then you will be successful than most every other agent. And I think it's called Parkinson's law. Your work will expand or shrink to the amount of time you give it. And we all know this from school days, right? If you had a month to write an essay, it took a month. If you had a week to write an essay, it took a week. If you have 3 hours to do your lead gen because you don't have a choice, like you got to pick up the kids or you have to run to your other job, or you'll get it done. The problem is with the full-time agents is they'll say, well, between now and 6 p.m., I have to do 3 hours of lead gen. And they don't do it. It's Parkinson's law. They have too much time. Okay, so 3 hours a day consistently will win every single time. And I wouldn't even say 3, if I'm being totally honest. I would say 2. I would really say 2. I've had times where if I'm driving to, we'll have trainings out in Temecula sometimes for leadership. That's an hour and change drive. I will make 7 or 8 calls during a drive because I have nothing else to do. Like I can't listen to any more podcasts. I'm gonna make some calls. Okay, now do that again on the drive back. That's almost 20 phone calls, 2 hours of lead gen. Okay, so just remember that this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And I'll post it somewhere, maybe on our social media. Somebody showed a picture. It was like these tracking circles. And it said, most people think this is what consistency looks like. And every ball was full with green. It was a win every time. And it said, this is actually what consistency is like. And one was full, one was half, one was full, one was a quarter, one was a third. And it was just like, nope, but you just keep going. That is a huge part of what lead gen is. You're gonna have days where you get 2 hours and it felt good and you got your win for the day. And the very next day, it was rough. But you kept going. That's all that lead gen is, okay? So let's go back to the very first one here. Number 1 job is lead gen, okay? Now, are there any questions? Actually, I want some ahas. Are there any ahas? What do we hear here? Remember, I didn't create this. For those of you that are on Zoom land, for those that are on live land, okay? This is just the red book, the MREA book. Ahas, give me something. If you want to succeed at this business, you have to lead gen. Absolutely. Consistency. Yep.
Always driving.
What's that?
Especially every weekend I drive to Newport Beach.
Mhm.
It's 1 hour, 20 minutes, so that's a good answer.
Yeah. So I love to move when I talk. So I'll make my calls outside in this little courtyard so I can walk in circles. And I've legitimately told somebody, you know what, call me in 5 minutes because then I'll be on the road. Because that's what I like to do. And there was a guy, he's out east, Derek Boyd, I think is his name. He's a significant agent. And he used to say that he wrote down like 15 names before he got in the car. Then, you know, before the day's over, I'm gonna call these 15 people. I have about 3 or 4 drives ahead of me, and I'm gonna chip away at it, and that's, he made it a point to do that, his drives were calls, that's what they were. Yeah, I love doing that.
People I see on the road sometimes, I'm like, oh, you're in a phone call, that's why you're gonna be so slow. Just kidding.
The days of looking like you're a crazy person talking to nobody are gone, everyone's talking
Yeah,
to somebody.
that's the only way to like stay alive in this California traffic.
Yeah, let me see, what else, anything else, guys, anything else in Zoom land? So the next model that we're gonna be teaching is, should I have it pulled up, is the budget model, okay? So the models in the MREA book are the economic model, which is know your numbers, right? We need to know where you're going, we need to know how many appointments it's gonna take to get there. Then we go into the lead gen model, which is, okay, great, this is a great math equation, now how do we feed the leads in order to actually do this? Next, we'll have the budget model, which is, okay, great, we have the leads, we're running this machine. Now, when can we start spending money to make it keep going? And when is too much money being spent and when is not enough money being spent? Because ironically enough, I've sat down with agents that are so proud of their profit margin being so high. And I have to break it to them like, hey, you know, you're kind of starving your business. You know, you're taking all this money away from your business, you're not allowing it to grow. Right, so you should be feeding something into it. And then the last one is the organizational model, which a lot of us aren't there yet. Organizational model is, okay, great. We have the economic model, we know what it's gonna take. We have the leads to feed it. Now we're spending some money, not too much, and we're being strict with that. Now, when is it time to actually hire and how do we organize that? And I will tell you that there are definitely steps you can make right now that will help with the organizational model. You may not realize it yet, but it's definitely there, okay? All right, guys, any questions in Zoom land? Next time we have a class, it will be on the budget model. And if you do not have a copy of this book, come talk to me. We need to get you a copy of that book.
Is the next class at 11?
I believe so. Robert, yes. When is that?
It's the first Tuesday.
Okay.
Next week.
So yeah, we're gonna start moving this class, summer schedule, testing it out, June 3rd. So we're testing it out for 2 reasons. One is we always like to test things out to see how our agents like it. And 2 is if we're practicing what we're preaching and we don't want people to avoid lead gen. We don't want to have classes too often that are in the middle of lead gen time. Okay, so in a perfect world, if you start lead gen at 9, you're done at 11-ish, and you come over here. That would be a perfect world, okay? Any questions, guys? Anything else?
And then in 3 weeks, we have the chili cook-off.
So,
Huh? Oh, yeah, sorry. In 3 weeks, we have the chili cook-off. And it's gonna be really fun. We have 3 contestants so far. We're looking for more people who wanna.
Wait, I want to compete. How do I, what do I have to do?
What do you have to do? Thanks for asking, Gabe.
Wow, I was being honest. I have no idea. This wasn't scripted.
We have a post on it on our website, in the news section, so you can go there, or you can go to our calendar and RSVP. It's right on top of time, and yeah, and it's,
You have to make the chili before you come.
Yes,
Will it be
please.
here?
yes.
You wanna make it here?
Unless it's sweet chili, that's fine. Put it in a pan and heat it up.
Yeah.
And we're also gonna have a barbecue, so it'll be
Yes.
fun, little fun and games and raffles, and it'll be a nice time. It's open to family, but it's, in the middle of the day, so it's gonna be hard. And we're gonna have a team meeting right before that, so it'll be great.
Right.
Food and team meeting, and it'll be a lot of
Team
fun.
meetings before they eat the chili.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And it's
Sure.
And if,
What's that?
and if you have any guests, just RSVP for them beforehand, so, and, that's all I
Alright,
have.
well, I'm gonna enter, so you guys can have some spicy Mexican shit, it's gonna melt your face off.
Oh,
It's gonna be
yum.
delicious.
That
Yes,
sounds
it'll be
good.
it'll be good. Okay, well, guys, thank you for coming on Zoom land.
Gabriel,
Yes,
can I ask a question,
sure.
please? I don't like these things of calling people once a week. I mean, it's not genuine, I think. I hear my dad once a week, so I don't know.
Oh, are you talking about the 8x8?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's something we need to talk in a different environment and another time, but you know what I mean? It doesn't sound genuine to keep spamming people like that.
Claude, are you aware that you are on week 4 of my 8x8?
Yeah, but I mean, you're great. I'm learning from you, so
Well,
that's
look,
why I'm here.
Let me tell you, so week 1, we met in person, correct?
Yeah,
And then after that, we did a call. And then we sent you an email. And then the other day you sent me a WhatsApp message.
yeah, but I'm learning from you. I mean, you're giving me a lot of value. What value can I give people? Just, I mean, what should I tell them?
Well, the first one is the face-to-face, right? I mean, that's kind of the given. So week 1 is almost always taken care of. Week 2, now it depends on the conversation. If they were interested in buying, if they were interested in selling, were they interested in a certain area? So you can send them a text with that information. You could call them with that information. You can email them with that information. And then the next week, it could be yet another item of real estate news, it could be mortgage interest rates. So the purpose of the reaching out isn't that it's always a call. I don't think you should call people 8 times in 8 weeks. Personally, I don't think you should do that. I think there's a lot of different ways that you reach out to them. There's emails, there's calls, as Marianne said, there's video messages. Now what you send to them, that one is a little bit more difficult. You're gonna say, thank you for meeting them. You're gonna call to see how things are going, how the rest of the open houses went. You can give them updates on the market. I mean, there's actually a lot of things you can do, Claude. I think the trick is having it set up already. What are the 8 things that you would like to do before you actually have to do it? If that makes sense.
And
Yeah.
there's several sample 8x8 plans that you can just.
Yeah, so in Command, there is an 8x8 that you can look at. There's a few 8x8s. You can download it. It doesn't mean you have to use it exactly, but it'll definitely jog your mind a little bit. But my point is, you should have this figured out in advance. So do some time thinking about that. Think of, well, the first call is gonna be, how did the rest of the home searches go? Maybe so that takes us to week 2. Week 3 could be, I wanted to send you a list of homes that I think you might be interested in. Week 4 might actually be another call to say, hey, what did you think of those homes that I sent you? So before you know it, we're on week 5. But I would encourage you to go in Command and take a look at the 8x8s that are there and see what you like about them, what you don't like about them, and then kind of have it built out.
Okay, but this is for buyers, right? For sellers, different. Sorry if I keep you longer here, Gabriel.
No, that's okay. It's a good question. It would depend. Again, you could have a buyer and seller 8x8, but again, it would still be a market update. It would be, interest rates would be just as valid. It just depends on what you're going to say behind them. So I think a lot of the updates would be similar. Maybe if you have a monthly neighborhood update for that area, whether they're a buyer or a seller, they're going to be interested in that. If 3 homes just sold in that area, if they're a buyer or a seller, they're going to be interested in that. They're going to want to know, oh, this is what buyers are spending. Or if they're a seller, let me look at what these other sellers do. So I think a lot of them would overlap, to be honest.
Okay. I just need to find what's valuable for me. Okay. Thank you so much, Gabriel.
And I think the beauty of this is adding your spin to it. Like, what is your style? But sticking with the basics of, I don't care what I'm going to say. I'm going to make sure I reach out to this person every week for 8 weeks. And if you have a certain style or maybe you like videos, maybe you'll send them a few extra videos, whereas somebody that doesn't like sending videos might do calls. So as long as the underlying principle is followed, which is, you're not going to forget about me because you're going to hear from me every week for 8 weeks in different ways.
Okay,
Good question. That's a great question. Thank you, Claude.
of course.
That's from ChatGPT.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you can get ideas from ChatGPT. You could, again, ChatGPT knows about this, so you can ask that. And then, yeah, you can definitely, what I've done in the past is I've looked in Command at what smart plans people have built out. And I've said like, oh, I like that. I didn't think about that one. I would never do that. Oh, I like that one too. And then you kind of build out your own. But as long as you have it, that's the goal. The goal is to have it and use it. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming. Again, next time will be the budget model. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
You have any pizza?
Oh, pizza is on the way.
She's
not on me, sorry.
That's okay. Nice to see you.
She came to visit me and Joanne.
Oh, how nice. All right, guys, thank you in Zoom land. Thank you guys. We're gonna have pizza here. If you're on Zoom, no pizza for you. Eat salad and pizza.
You're lucky.
All right, see you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Bye.
Yeah, I'll let you do this one.
No, so that's not within 90